Hello again, everyone, and thanks so much for joining us for Friday's edition of Alaska Weather, 25th day of February, now 2022. I'm David Percy. Up first, hazardous weather graphic showing some red shaded areas on the Arctic coast, or central eastern Arctic coast. They're still under the influence of a blizzard warning for tonight until Saturday morning, or through Saturday morning, tonight through Saturday morning, for strong winds, gusts 40 to 50 miles an hour, and blowing snow in those winds, creating whiteout conditions at times. And again, that's expected through the night tonight and into Saturday morning. And then there's a high wind warning out along the Norton Bay coast, or eastern Norton Bay coast there, and the Yukon, Kuskokwim Delta coastline, Nunivak Island, and also for Bristol Bay. And that high wind warning is out for tonight for gusts as high as 70 miles per hour. Then over the southeast coast, high wind warning there too, southern panhandle. And that kicks into effect Saturday afternoon. The system comes up from the south there and begins to affect the area. And looking for southeast winds of 20 to 30 miles an hour with gusts above 60 miles per hour. That starts Saturday afternoon and continues through Saturday night. And looking at satellite imagery, you can see the storm that brought all the strong winds and precipitation, mild temperatures into southern Alaska, especially the southwest part of the state today. Strongest winds occurring over northeast Bristol Bay area, anywhere from 60 to 95 miles per hour for the peak wind gusts there. Also ahead of the frontal boundary, strong winds moved into areas of the North Gulf Coast. Portage Glacier Visitor Center had a peak wind gust of 78 miles per hour, and Middleton Island up about 65 miles per hour, and the entire North Gulf Coast experiencing east-southeast winds of 45 to 65 miles per hour. Some pretty windy conditions as well, moving up into the Seward Peninsula area as the front approached there. Golovin, Unalakleet, gusts 55 miles an hour. And even up on the Arctic coast, eastern Arctic coast, they're seeing winds gusting 40 to 55 miles per hour along the entire stretch of the Arctic coast. They'll start to diminish later tonight on the western Arctic coast, or actually this evening, but hold up there for the east side with a blizzard warning continuing through the night tonight and into Saturday morning. You can see the frontal boundary slowly edging its way eastward there into the panhandle, increasing the clouds there and precipitation as well. But a break behind that front, some clearing sunshine this afternoon from actually working into northern Cook Inlet at mid-afternoon, down across southern Kenai Peninsula, and over the lee side of the western Alaska Range, some pretty good sunshine breaking out over the central and southern Kuskokwim Valley, and then back into the clouds there, that wraparound moisture coming in from the Pribilofs into Bristol Bay as the low center pulls northwestward. Not too bad over the Alaska Peninsula, and some showers over just about all the Aleutians today, with some breezy conditions, but wind's not much of a factor there, mostly over the Bristol Bay area, Alaska Peninsula, back up along the southwest interior. As I mentioned, for the strongest winds, rainfall amounts about an inch falling at Kodiak, and 24-hour amounts with Cold Bay picking about half an inch of precipitation, as did Cordova and Yakutat. And then Seward had 2/3 of an inch of rainfall. Again, 24-hour amount ending at 2 p.m. this afternoon. Areas of precipitation in the form of rain or snow all the way up to the Alaska Range, but north of the mountains, kind of a windy day over the interior with gusts of 50 miles an hour at Indian Mountain, Utopia Creek in the central interior, for example, as well as I mentioned on the Arctic coast there, with the resulting in a blowing snow and blizzard warning in that area that'll continue again through tonight. And the high wind warning, as that low pulls west-northwest for tonight, you can see pulls over to St. Matthew Island, weakening, but still pretty tight gradient there with the front kind of hung up over the southwest interior with the whole system pulling to the northwest. So winds will diminish over Bristol Bay later tonight, and Kodiak Island, rain continuing, becoming more intermittent and lighter or showery as the nighttime wears on. Just some areas of moisture over southern Alaska in the form of rain or snow showers. And heaviest precipitation over the southern panhandle as that next system to your southwest begins to increase in wind and rain there. Otherwise, some light snow over the central interior areas of, and then still pretty windy, fairly tight gradient with that 1,030 millibar Arctic high over the Northwest Territories. And eastern Arctic coast there down through the eastern Brooks Range in toward just near or north of Eagle for the strongest winds there, as well as St. Lawrence Island, Yukon Delta, up into the Bering Strait, and lightning winds for the western Arctic coast. And for Saturday, that front really washes out, kind of a remnant of it extending across the Kuskokwim Valley down across Cook Inlet for variable clouds, maybe some rain or snow showers. But you can see a lot fewer lines on the map. In fact, pretty light winds over southern Alaska. Stays a little brisk there from the Yukon River, Eagle area up across the northeast interior to the eastern Arctic coast, but much lighter winds for the central and western Arctic coast. Still pretty windy, proximity to that 974 millibar low there for St. Lawrence Island. That's where the strongest winds will be tomorrow. By contrast, much lighter winds down over the southern Bering Sea. And the Aleutians with colder air coming in, mostly snowfall levels falling down towards sea level for the western Aleutians, otherwise rain or rain and snow showers for the central eastern Aleutians, light rain or snow showers, and could be a dry day mostly for Kodiak Island, risk of a shower, but light winds, maybe some sun breaks as well. And then the high wind warning kicks into effect for the southern panhandle again Saturday afternoon. And then that low pulls northwestward into the Gulf of Alaska and weakens, but that hangs a front up along the coast there, but it too weakens, so winds will be lighter and the wind warning will end. But look for periods of rain and snow depending on elevation there and the time of day. And a trough up over the eastern interior will bring some areas of light snow from the Copper River Basin, rain or snow showers, North Gulf Coast, Kenai Peninsula, on up across the Alaska Range into the upper Tanana Valley, 40-mile country, and the Yukon Flats, Koyukuk Valley. Maybe the northern Kobuk Valley will have a chance of snow showers, and that'll extend all the way to the western Arctic coast. But winds will be much lighter even on the eastern Arctic coast with dry conditions, mostly clear skies up that way. Bering Sea kind of unsettled, that low center continuing to weaken as it makes landfall on the Russian coastline, the front pulling back with it. And that takes all the moisture and wind with it as well. And so pretty light winds by comparison for especially the eastern Aleutians, southeast Bering Sea. The winds coming down considerably, markedly for the St. Lawrence Island area. Still some light snow into the Seward Peninsula, but that'll be very light, more of a snow shower condition there. And maybe some clearing as well. Looking at the forecast lows, below zero again, 5 to 15 below northeast interior to the central Arctic coast. South of the Brooks Range, right around zero, single numbers over toward the eastern border. And in the teens, central interior, upper 20s to mid-30s over southern Alaska, warmest down toward Kachemak Bay, Resurrection Bay, Prince William Sound, and lows in the 30s, all above freezing for the Panhandle. Mid-30s Kodiak Island, mid-30s for the eastern Aleutians, 30 to 35 for the Alaska Peninsula, Pribilofs, right around freezing for Adak and Atka, as well as Shimia. Low of 30 for both Nome and Savunga. Highs for tomorrow, breaking zero up on the Arctic coast, right around zero for the eastern Arctic coast, and 5 to 15 for your highs for the North Slope and the Northeast Interior, but into the mid to upper 20s back toward the Kobuk Valley and the Northwest Coast. Red Dog Mine probably won't reach the 40-degree temperature they saw today, nor will Nome reach the 41 they saw today, but still in the mid-30s, above freezing there. 15 to 25 for the highs central interior, upper 20s toward Delta Junction, and then south of the Brooks Range, highs in the mid to upper 30s to lower 40s toward Homer, Seldovia, Anchor Point area. Definitely in the lower 40s or mid 40s possibly for Kodiak Island, and 40 to 45 for your highs for the southeast coast. And the lows the following morning dropping a little below zero there up over the northeast interior from Chalkyitsik up to Arctic Village, and about 0 to 10 below for the central and eastern Arctic coast, otherwise 10 to 15 above for the northwest part of the state, mid-20s. Southern Seward Peninsula, St. Lawrence Island, into the Yukon-Kuskokwim Delta, mid to upper 20s for Bristol Bay. In the 20s, South Central Alaska, 15 to 20 for Copper River Basin, but near freezing for the North Gulf Coast. Lows 30 to 40 across the Panhandle, and in the lower 30s for the Aleutians, and 30 to 35 for the Alaska Peninsula. And then the highs, either side of zero for the Arctic coast Sunday afternoon, but 5 to 15 North Slope Brooks Range, and 15 to 20 or even 25, mid-20s for the upper Tanana Valley areas. In the mid-30s or mid to upper 30s south of the Brooks Range, but 28.
And now, aviation weather around Alaska.
And moving into flying weather, solid VFR from the North Slope, Brooks Range actually, all the way out to the Arctic coast and beyond. Northwest coast, northern Seward Peninsula. Areas of marginal VFR show up across the central interior Yukon River Valley areas. IFR, Yukon Delta, coastal areas of the Kuskokwim Delta, and then into the southwest mountains there. And southern Kuskokwim Valley, northern Bering Sea from the Pribilofs to St. Lawrence Island, IFR. Marginal VFR, southern Bering Sea, Aleutians, Alaska Peninsula. IFR, North Gulf Coast, Prince William Sound, into the western Copper River Basin, northward to the Alaska Range, and in the 40-mile country from about Eagle down to the north slopes of the eastern Alaska Range, mostly IFR for the southeast coast and eastern Kodiak Island. And for the afternoon, still IFR, but not quite as much in the Copper River Basin, mostly marginal there, as well as the Susitna Valley. Some VFR for the Susitna Valley, maybe down in toward Knik Arm, northern Cook Inlet, otherwise southern Cook Inlet, Kenai Peninsula, up into western or most of Prince William Sound, IFR. And IFR south coast of the Panhandle, Lincoln Glacier Bay, otherwise marginal. Kodiak Island, marginal VFR afternoon. IFR, northern Bering Sea, Yukon Delta, Nunivak Island to St. Lawrence Island, and still hanging in over the southwest mountains. Pribilofs, Aleutians, southern Bering Sea, marginal VFR, and some areas of marginal VFR central interior, but that ends as you head north. Good VFR, Brooks Range, Kobuk Valley, Koyukuk Valley, right on out to the Arctic coast. It tries to hold in the Sunday morning, but you can see moisture advances northward to the southern slopes of the central and western Brooks Range. Marginal VFR, western Arctic coast. East side, though, still VFR. Big area IFR pushing into the southwest quarter of the state there, right up and just past the Alaska Range into Cook Inlet, Kenai Peninsula, into the western Copper River Basin. More IFR in across just about all of the southeast coast and most of Kodiak Island, Bristol Bay, southern Bering Sea, and Aleutians, marginal VFR. For the afternoon, marginal VFR for the Bering Sea and the Aleutians, IFR northern Bering along the southwest coast, and areas of there, mostly right along the mountainous terrain of southern Alaska into the Copper River Basin Wrangell Mountains, northern Panhandle over toward the eastern border all the way down to Misty Fjords. Southern Kodiak Island, IFR, marginal VFR to the north. Cook Inlet breaking out to VFR, same thing for Kamishak, Kachemak Bay, Susitna Valley. Marginal VFR up to the Brooks Range, VFR, North Slope and Arctic Coast. Anatuvik and Adigan both looking good tomorrow, VFR. Lake Clark and Merrill, IFR, a little better up toward Rainy, marginal VFR at times. And windy, occasional marginal VFR at times. Same thing for Isabel. Occasional IFR from Antasta, marginal VFR at other times. And for Tanita, marginal VFR. Portage, IFR. Chilcoot and White, IFR. Freezing levels 2,000 feet there aloft. A little bit warmer air hanging in over the western North Slope areas at the surface. Quite a ways into southern Alaska. Then 2,000 feet off the south coast of the Panhandle. Icing, heaviest area will be over the Panhandle. Some considerable moderate rime icing either off the coast or in across Prince of Wales Island, Ketchikan-Nanette in those areas, and light to isolated moderate icing extending up over the southeast interior, a band along the Aleutians to the western Alaska Peninsula, and another batch up over the northern Bering Sea, and a small threat there over Iliamna Lake, Kachemak Bay, or Kamishak Bay, in toward Togiak. And the jet stream, upper level low pressure out over the Bering Sea and upper level high to the northeast, so south to southeast flow 70 to 90 knots, over interior Alaska. Stronger jet over the Panhandle, up to 105 knots. 9,000 feet, the low pulling northwestward across the northern Bering. So that max wind zone will be pulling west as well, sitting right over St. Lawrence Island. Warm southerly winds there, 50 to 60 miles an hour. And at 3,000 feet, same thing, northern Bering Sea, St. Lawrence Island into the Bering Strait, south winds, 55 to 60 knots. Easterlies, 35 to 40 knots, a narrow band over the northern interior, as well as the central north slope, 70 knots over Dixon Entrance. Turbulence, moderate chop there, southern southeast coastal areas, Prince of Wales Island up to Port Alexander, up over the northeast interior, tighter gradient, and also over the northern Bering Sea, western Seward Peninsula. And after the break,
Welcome back to another edition of Alaska Weather Facts. I'm Dave Snyder, and joining me again is Cindy Preller. She's the Tsunami Program Manager for Alaska Region's National Weather Service. Thanks again for joining us, Cindy.
Thanks for having me back, Dave.
Sure thing. And I love saying Tsunami Program Manager for Alaska's National Weather Service because that's not weather. Why is the Tsunami Program part of the National Weather Service?
Well, it's because the Weather Service absolutely rocks at warning people for every kind of, devastating natural hazard.
Mm-hmm. The mission of the Weather Service is to protect life and property. And so how does the Tsunami Warning Center in Palmer, Alaska, which is a very unique office, again, within the Weather Service, it's not weather, how do those folks help us protect life and property?
The National Tsunami Warning Center in Palmer is a national warning center, and we analyze seismic traces 24/7 all around the world. So when there's an earthquake anywhere on the planet, we see it and analyze it within minutes.
Within minutes, and
Within
there's
minutes.
actually a goal to have it under, was it 5 minutes?
If there is a tsunami warning to be issued for continental America, we must get that out, or shoot to get that out in 5 minutes.
Okay. Now that's not something I have ever learned to do, so I know it would be a struggle for me to do that under probably hours. But it is fascinating to watch, and the office is open on a regular basis for tours, right?
Absolutely. Come by Friday.
Okay.
Yep, every
Fridays.
Friday at 1, 2, and 3 p.m. They're open public free tours. And it's the most interesting place on the planet. You really should check it out.
Okay, and the office team is made up of people that are earth scientists, not meteorologists or atmospheric scientists. Talk about some of the types of people that work there.
Right, we are out of place in our National Weather Service, but we are geologists, geophysicists, oceanographers. We even have an astrophysicist on board, computer software architects, electronic technicians that are brilliant and innovative. Our software is all written in-house. Our instrumentation is designed in-house.
Okay.
So it's a really, really unique place. And it's just a couple handfuls of people that work there. So
Sure.
yeah.
One of my favorite ways to get a tsunami alert message is on Twitter.
Right.
And I can follow the Twitter address, and we'll put that up on the screen for you there. But it's usually a very quick message that tells you initially what the magnitude of an earthquake could be and about where its epicenter was. What are some of the other ways that you can get that alert message?
Well, Twitter's my favorite too.
Yeah.
And you don't even need a Twitter account to receive
Right.
it. So
That's
it just comes in like an SMS message. But you can also receive it via email, weather radio, of course, the crawler on your television screen, on the internet, Google Alerts,
Right.
marine radio if you're out in harbors and boats. Actually, marine radio is probably,
Yeah, it is a good one.
that's our partnership with the Coast Guard. We're really grateful for that, absolutely. But there's a variety of ways in dissemination.
Okay.
And locally, excuse me, I'm sorry, but
Sure.
locally in the communities, the sirens will go off as well.
Right. So lots of different ways to get that very important message very quickly when that matters to you. One of the ways that the Warning Center practices with communities is a test on a yearly basis, right?
Right.
How does that work?
Thanks for bringing that up. It's a controversial issue, but it's super important to help us warn better and really serve Alaskans. So the week of March 27th, the commemoration of the 1964 event, for that week we have a Tsunami Preparedness Week every year. We like communities to get out and do drills and practice and do everything we can to raise awareness. And part of that is a live code test where we actually issue the warning message live and we activate the emergency alert system, which means sirens go off, the TV crawler happens, and it's a test.
We're
and
doing everything that would normally happen without the real threat of the tsunami, just to practice as much as possible.
Right, and this is a major partnership with the State of Alaska, Department of Homeland Security and Emergency Management, the Emergency Operations Center, and the Alaska Broadcasters Association. Without the media, we wouldn't be able to do this. So the three groups really work tightly together to do our best to warn, educate the public that this is happening, so they don't wonder and get scared about it. It has been remarkable what we've learned. I mean, it pretty much breaks somewhere every time, but then we fix it, and it gets better. So a quick example is just a few years ago, we used to, when we issued a message, it would activate the entire state. Right? I mean, Kotzebue, Nome, Bethel, everybody would be in tsunami warning. And so now we can regionalize it to where the actual event is taking place. That's pretty huge.
Right. So identifying points of failure and also points of success, and making sure we continue down that successful path so that folks are warned as quickly and accurately as possible.
Absolutely. And you know, to get our communities involved, to prep themselves, prep their businesses, prep their tourism, prep their schools, you know, just make this an annual thing they need to be doing.
Right. So as citizens wanting to be prepared, we should be prepared to learn more about that test that's happening usually toward the end of March every year.
Right, and you should be happy that it's happening.
Right.
Instead of upset. Definitely be happy that it's happening.
Right. Just as we test tornado sirens in tornado country, we also have to test the tsunami program as well.
Right, because there isn't enough time. You know, for a local tsunami, the wave will arrive in less than 2 minutes. So it's super important that people know what to do.
Very good. Well, Cindy, thank you so much for helping us know more about the Tsunami Ready program and the test. And the Tsunami Warning Center is a very unique and very important job in the National Weather Service that is just fascinating to me every time I visit the office. So
it's the only one for the continent. You really should come check it out.
It's an international effort.
Yes.
Wonderful stuff. Thank you, Cindy.
Thank you, Dave.
And thanks for joining us for another edition of Alaska Weather Facts. I'm Dave Snyder. We'll see you next time.
And now, marine weather around Alaska.
Welcome back. Looking at the ice edge from the 22nd and then comparing it to today, you can see it makes a noticeable jog back to the north and also along the coast, Yukon, Kuskokwim Delta coast down to Bristol or Togiak Bay, really kind of breaking up, thinning out along the coastline there. And that pattern will continue for another couple of days probably, and then kind of go into a stationary status quo thereafter. And for the coastal water forecast, gale warnings for the Panhandle, central south coast, southeast winds 40 knots, north coast, small craft advisories, east winds at 30 knots. Gale warnings for Clarence Strait, southeast 35, seas 7 feet, northeast 20, gust 35 for Stevens Passage. Light winds for the northern inner channels, northerlies at about 10 knots, seas no more than 2 feet. Picking up to 20 knots for the Lincoln Glacier Bay area on Sunday with 4-foot seas, northeast 20, 4-foot seas also for Stevens Passage and Clarence Strait, southeast winds 20 knots. Small craft advisories for the south coast, east winds 25 to 30 knots, seas 11 feet, and north coast, south to southeast winds 25 knots, seas 10 feet. Prince William Sound, northeast winds 15 knots, seas 2 feet. Northern Cook Inlet, northeast at 15. South of the Forelands, east at 20. And small craft advisories, Kamishak Bay, southeast 25 knots for Saturday. And for the North Gulf Coast, east-northeast 15 to 20 knots. Barren Islands, southeast at 20. They'll swing around to the northwest at 20 there for the Barren Islands. Light variable winds for a change for Kamishak Bay, 10 knots, seas down to 3 feet or less. Cook Inlet, variable to northwest winds at 10 knots. Prince William Sound, northeast winds 15 knots, seas at 3 feet. And small craft advisories for the eastern North Gulf Coast for east winds at 25 knots, and seas up to 15 feet. Kodiak Island, south to southwest winds 15 to 20 knots. Alaska Peninsula, south winds 20 knots. Bristol Bay, southeast winds 20 knots, 4-foot seas. And for Sunday, even lighter winds, variable for Shelikof Strait and from Sitkinak to Castle Cape, 10 knots, and west 15 for the east side of Kodiak Island. And variable to southwest winds, 10 to 15 knots for the Alaska Peninsula and Bristol Bay, east winds 15 knots, seas at 2 feet. Fox Island, southwest winds 20 knots. Adak and Atka, southwest winds 20 knots. And from Amchitka to Shimianatu, west winds 25 knots, seas around 12 feet. Gales come into the far western Aleutians on Sunday as southwest winds increase to 40 knots, seas around 11 feet, southeast 30 for Amchitka Island. Otherwise, west winds 20 knots for Adak and Atka, and west-southwest winds 15 knots there for the Fox Islands with seas running 5 to 9 feet. South coast of the, southwest coast, gale warnings along the Yukon Delta coast, south 40 knots, small craft advisories, Kuskokwim Delta coast, south 30 knots, southwest 30 for the Pribilofs, minimum gales for the St. Matthew Island area, south 35, St. Lawrence Island, gale warnings, southeast 40 knots, and Norton Sound, gale warnings, east at 35 knots. Those come down to 20 knots for Norton Sound on Sunday. And brisk wind advisory, St. Lawrence Island, southeast 25 knots, and east-southeast 15 knots for the southwest coast. Light variable wind conditions for the Pribilof Islands, winds at 10 knots, seas 6 feet, south 25 for St. Matthew Island. Gale warnings for the central and eastern Arctic coast for east winds 35 to 40 knots. Brisk wind advisories for the west side, east at 30 knots, and brisk wind advisories from Cape Beaufort to Wales for east-southeast winds 25 to 30 knots. And those brisk wind advisories continue from Wales to Cape Beaufort for southeast on the southeast direction, 25 knot winds, east 15, so coming down on the western Arctic coast about 15 knots, and 20 knot easterlies for the central coast. Brisk wind advisories for the eastern Beaufort Sea coast for Sunday for east winds 25 to 30 knots. For tonight, winds lighten up on the western Arctic coast, but blizzard warning continues tonight for the central and eastern Arctic coast. And pretty gusty winds all the way down to the northeast interior. Areas of light snow scattered around interior Alaska, rain and snow showers on the North Gulf Coast, and rain and wind on the increase for the southern panhandle. And that front and low center pulls back into the Bering Sea, taking the stronger winds west-northwestward with it. And we'll see for tomorrow that pulls even farther to the northwest. Pretty windy and snowy for the St. Lawrence Island area, improving over interior Alaska, increasing wind and rain for the central and southern panhandle. And that continues into Sunday with quieter weather over interior.
These forecasts are for planning purposes only. Call 1-800-WX-BRIEF for a formal pre-flight briefing. Always file a flight plan before you go flying. The U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary urges you to leave a float plan with a friend or the harbor master before you go boating.